Yo, what is going on, guys? Tuft here, and today I'm bringing you guys a quick little tutorial slash guide, tips and tricks, whatever you want to call it, on recoil control. Now, I recently switched over from the M4A1S to the M4A4, which is sort of difficult, and it has been for most players that I've talked to, at least, that weren't familiar with using the M4A4 before, because most players that started playing CS a while ago were used to the M4A4 spray control because that's the original M4 that was in the game, and they have previous experience with it, etc. So they haven't really had as hard a time with it as I have. Now, with the M4A1S nerf, I found that I was losing more and more gunfights that I usually wasn't before, and so that's why I decided to switch. And obviously, along with that came learning the new spray patterns. So when I went through the process of sort of relearning the M4A4 spray control, I noticed that there was a lot of people previously, and when I first started playing the game, that were saying the best way to learn recoil controls to go into a server kind of like this one offline and just turn on SV underscore show impacts 2, which shows your bullets, and just watch the spray like this. And they're like, all right, well, you saw that it goes up to the left, to the right, and then back to the left, so you just want to grind it out and spend hours trying to learn the compensation for that, which would be down to the right, to the left, and then back to the right. And, that can take hours and hours and hours every single day for weeks and months and maybe even years, depending on your level of comprehension for the game. So that sort of took a long time, and I did that with the AK-47 and with the M4A1S when I was learning that spray control. And obviously with any other gun in the game, this sort of theory can be applied. Now, one thing that I discovered was I was put in a situation where I wanted to learn the M4A4 spray control rather quickly. Now, instead of spraying it on a wall a billion times and trying to counter it a billion times and just sort of learning it on my own, and eventually through trial and error and hours of frustration and building up this sort of muscle memory, I guess you could say, which was pretty much forced by just hours of brutally grinding it out by spraying patterns on a wall, essentially, I decided to try a different approach with the M4A4. Now, one thing I discovered was I've managed to learn the spray pattern a lot quicker by doing one simple thing. Instead of spraying the entire pattern out on a wall and then trying to counter for it or compensate for it, what I decided to do, which I found worked rather well, was start with 1 or 2 bullets. Now, obviously, you guys know that the first 2 bullets with the M4A4 seemingly, or most of the time, about 3 bullets. As you can see, it's really this 4th bullet here that starts to stray away from pretty much exactly where you're aiming. The beginning bullets of your spray don't really need to be compensated for at all, and they're based purely on your raw aim, and wherever you aim, that's where those bullets are going to go. So the first 3 bullets you pretty much don't have to compensate for at all, and then there you go. You've mastered the first 3 bullets of your M4A4 spray. Now, obviously, this can be applied to any gun. With the AK-47, usually it's the 3rd bullet that starts to go astray, so your first 2 bullets are going to be accurate. But sort of what I did from there was, instead of spraying the entire pattern out and then trying to compensate for the whole thing at once, I just sort of broke it down into segments. Now, as you can see here, this is the entire spray, starts here. These first 5 to 7 or 8 bullets are just pretty much a straight line up, and then included here, but you're pulling down a lot more. And then these last couple bullets are what really throws everyone for a loop, because it goes to the right, to the left, and then back to the right. So what you want to do is just slowly break it down and make it super simple and super easy for yourself, and it's going to make your arm, finger, hands, brain, everything that you're using to control that spray with your mouse a lot easier to memorize and just develop that muscle memory, because you're going to be building on it, and you're going to be starting with small parts like the first 3 bullets, and then eventually building on that to 3 or 4, and then 3 or 4 or 5, and then eventually you'll be able to do the entire pattern and learn it a lot more quickly. So what I did was I just started with 3 or 4 bullets like that, and then every time I would get comfortable with it, I just start adding more and more bullets until eventually you got to the whole mag. So what I do, start with 3 or 4, and then move up to 5 or 6, and 7 or 8, and then 9 or 10, and then eventually start to get to this part where it starts moving from side to side instead of just vertically, and that's when you can really challenge yourself to try and get that recoil as tight as possible. So pretty much, instead of trying to spray the entire thing out, break it down into segments, learn it in bits and pieces. Start by spraying a little bit, and then spraying more, and then eventually you'll learn the entire thing. So don't overwork yourself by trying to learn the entire pattern at once. Really take it easy, break it down into simple groups. I'd say usually the first 5 or 6 bullets is the easiest because they're all like in a straight thing, like a pretty much downward pull. For the first 5 or 6 bullets, you can also use an alternative method. Instead of just pulling your crosshair straight down, you can crouch, which essentially does the same thing. It just lowers your player model, which lowers your gun, which lowers where the bullets are shooting, which lowers your recoil or spray, which keeps it on target with what you're trying to aim at, essentially. So those first couple bullets, which are also, take note, the most effective way to spray. I mean, from this range, you're going to be wanting to use like 1 or 2 taps to sort of take out your enemy. But if you're in a close quarters situation where you're going to be wanting to spray them with a couple more bullets, you're not going to be wanting to unload the entire clip. That's unnecessary. It's a waste of ammo. Obviously, it's not very accurate either, so you're probably going to be risking a lot by spraying your entire magazine into somebody. If you can use that first 5 or 6 bullets to take them out and just have a quick little controlled spray, it's going to be much more effective for multiple ranges instead of trying to spray like crazy. Or if you're up close trying to one-tap, I mean, that's not going to work either. So you got to, part of recoil control, I guess, is also game sense in the sense, I guess you could say that ideally and situationally you have to adjust how you're spraying. If, let's just say, for example, the terrorists spawn back here, as you know, they come up, let's say they wanted to do an A strat, and they were going to try and fake B first. So they go to B, make a bunch of noise, and I, playing mid as CT, decided to rotate up here, and I just wanted to hold this angle because I knew they were going to try and pull out and go back to T spawn. If I knew that all of them were coming and I wanted to spray this entire area down, I could do that. I could unload my entire magazine, and because I've learned the recoil pattern, I can do that fairly accurately. That's a good situation where you're going to want to spray a lot of bullets at somebody or a group of people. If I was a terrorist, however, using, say, the AK, and my team didn't have an opera and I wanted to clear mid, I'm not going to want to spray this guy in connector here. I'm going to want to use small bursts and try and take him out with some, like, tightly grouped, precise shots. If I try and spray this guy, sure, I can land a couple bullets, but that's going to be far less effective, and it's going to take a lot more time to kill him than if I just did a couple, closely placed shots like that. So recoil is as much muscle memory and like dedicating yourself and learning the spray pattern as it is being able to situationally apply each of those methods and sort of learning when and where to use those. Obviously, if you're encountering more than one player at a time, spray transfer is also important. So another thing you can do, just spray 5 or 6 bullets here and then sort of try and move it over. Now, obviously, as you can see, it's a lot more difficult. Look, this first guy's dead, but the second guy, most likely not. He's had time to adjust his spray himself, and, he's been able to take the extra time to line up a nice shot. Maybe he's going to go for a one-tap, just gets it easy on you. I mean, there's a ton of different things you can do, and a lot of things you have to keep in mind and take into consideration when trying to learn recoil, because it's not just as simple as, oh, well, it goes up, left, or up, right, left, right, whatever freaking gun it is, whatever pattern you're using. You got to be able to understand that in different situations you're going to need, different amounts. So therefore, by practicing little tiny bits, not only have you memorized how to spray the first 5 bullets, but if you keep working and building on that, you know how to spray any amount of bullets given any situation that you're in. So by learning how to do it in little tiny chunks, those little tiny chunks are being used in different situations, which means not only are you better prepared to spray and you have better recoil control in general, but you also have a better situational advantage, because you know not only how to spray all 30 bullets or the first 5, but any number or set number in between that. So you really set yourself up for success when you learn how to spray any given number of bullets, because in certain situations that might be all you need or all you have, and it just allows you to be a much more diverse player, and in my opinion adds to your level of game sense and ability, both as a player and both physically, like just your raw ability to be able to manipulate your spray. So that's sort of my first tip, or my biggest tip that I can give you guys is learn the spray in chunks. Don't try and take on the whole thing, because there's a very limited number of situations where you're going to be needing that. And obviously, you got to learn how to control tiny little bits just as much you have to do the whole entire magazine. So that's my biggest tip I can give you guys, is just don't overbear yourself with trying to learn the entire spray, and just really break it down into simple little tiny bits and add a little bit more each time until you become confident. And then once you become confident with that, another thing you can do is start, adding range to that. It's great that you can spray all your bullets into a tight little group right there, but I mean, you're only 15 so meters away from the guy. Once you start mastering that, move back, and you're going to notice that with range, spraying becomes increasingly more difficult. And if you can keep your spray as tight as you can back here as you will 15 meters away from a target, which is nearly impossible, I mean, you've technically, you can say you've mastered that spray, because you can use it effectively at any range, any situation, whatever. Now, one reason why I like to do this on Mirage is because there are lots of like square objects and windows and things that you can use to practice your spray. What I would do is I would warm up, sort of learn the spray, do a couple of bursts right there, and then I'd start like saying, all right, so I want to keep all of my spray in the box that is like this window. And I'd start and I'd just spray. I'd be like, all right, so I got it into a pretty close grouping there. Now let's see how I do from back here. And it's like, Mirage is great for this because it's a pretty open map, and there's a lot of different ranges that you can encounter, and like most of the ranges that you're going to be using the rifles on, you can encounter on this map. You can get a variety of different angles to hold, and tons of like square objects that you can try and challenge yourself to spray accurately into, which is why I like to do this on Mirage. But obviously you can do it on any map. Speaking of maps, there's also a community workshop map called Recoil Master, which is also extremely helpful for those of you who need like an extra visual when it comes to learning the spray itself. So I'm actually going to hop into that map for you guys real quick right now and just show you guys, because it can be extremely beneficial for people who are just learning the spray, or even for people who are experienced enough to know and just need an extra little boost, or just something that they can do to further increase their knowledge of the spray or control of the spray, whatever. So what Recoil Master has is, it's called a ghost hair, and it pretty much is a crosshair that mimics where you should be placing yours in order to get the ideal spray, right? So you can just jump into this map here. You can select any weapon you want. They have most of the ghost hairs loaded for the primary guns, and then some of the less popular guns, I guess you could say. But what you can do is you can come here, and this green dot is going to pretty much go exactly where you should be spraying to get the ideal spray, which will end up with all your bullets inside of this circle. So you can just follow that crosshair, and you'll be able to get most of your bullets inside that circle, which is pretty decent, I guess, and you're almost guaranteed a kill. Also, you can add a terrorist model, so you can see that like most of your bullets are right on there. And then also in the bottom left corner, it obviously says the amount of shots you fired, how many bullets hit the head, chest, stomach, legs, etc., the accuracy of your spray overall, and what percentage of your bullets actually managed to hit your target. So it's a super useful tool when it comes to whether it being an extra visual to just help you get started with your spray, or perfecting it by trying to constantly increase the percentage of your spray that's accurately hitting your target and stuff like that. I'm going to leave a download link to this map in the description below. Hopefully you guys found this tutorial helpful. I'm going to be trying to do more stuff like this on my channel, sort of tips and tricks and just stuff that I've learned from playing and watching demos and pro players and talking to people in the community, and just stuff that I've learned in general that have helped me become a better player and stuff like that. So if this helped you guys, if you want to start using these sort of tactics on your own, make sure you let me know in the comments down below if you liked it. If at any time you found this helpful, make sure you drop a like, and I will really appreciate that. And yeah, until next time guys, I will see you all later. Peace.